This movie transports us to a time long ago when people lived in caves, more than 20,000 years in the past. It showcases a tribe from that era, led by a strong and courageous chief who has an 18-year-old son named Keda. Keda is smaller and lacks his father's strength, and he doesn't know how to hunt. However, his father, who is the tribe's leader, insists that Keda must learn, as he is his son and should follow in his footsteps. But the chief's wife disagrees, feeling that Keda is too young for hunting. Nevertheless, the chief is determined to go on a hunt because a storm is approaching, and it will be tough to find food during the winter months. He insists that Keda must join them. So, they gather a group and set out on their hunting journey, taking their time to cross a stream and pass through a forest until they reach a particular location. However, they encounter a large group of animals blocking their path. Actually, they were the wild cows. The tribe's leader realizes they must escape and instructs his people to use their bayonets to scare the aggressive cows away. However, the wild cows become aware of the impending threat and charge towards the humans, displaying their intent to harm them. The tribe's people throw their bayonets not to harm the animals but to frighten them, hoping to make them run. Unbeknownst to the tribe, there was a ditch further ahead in their path. The wild cows, in their haste, sprint towards the ditch and end up falling into it as a group. Among them, a massive and particularly aggressive wild cow, the leader of the group, reaches the edge of the ditch. It severely injures Keda, lifting him on its horns with the intention of throwing him into the ditch for revenge. In this critical moment, the tribe's leader acts swiftly. He grabs a bayonet and hurls it towards the aggressive wild cow, hitting it and saving Keda from a potentially fatal fate. As the scene unfolds, Keda has fallen into the deep ditch, and the story takes a flashback to a few days prior. The tribe is preparing for a hunting expedition, and the leader of the tribe requests his people to craft effective hunting weapons. Everyone begins crafting their weapons, including Keda, who proudly presents his creation to his father, the tribal leader. The leader is impressed with his son's weapon-making skills and even admires another boy's weapon. He decides to test their strength by instructing the tribesmen to engage in a friendly competition to assess their abilities. This competition involves some physical challenges, including sparring. The leader turns away briefly because he, too, understands that they need to test Keda's capabilities, even if it means watching his son get involved. Once the competition concludes, the leader approaches his son, embracing him with love and pride. He reassures Keda that he is going through a necessary phase and that he has done exceptionally well. He expresses his happiness with Keda's progress and emphasizes the importance of excelling in hunting, hinting at the upcoming challenges and lessons his son will face. During the night, the tribal leader confers with his wife, who is also Keda's mother. She expresses concern about their son, Keda, who is still a child, and the potential dangers he might face during the hunting expedition. The leader responds by explaining his reasoning, emphasizing that facing challenges is essential for Keda's growth and development. He believes that confronting difficulties builds courage and strength, making future obstacles easier to overcome. He reassures his wife, expressing confidence in their son's ability to become as brave as they are. Relieved, the leader's wife trusts their judgment. As the day of the hunt arrives, the leader assembles a team of tribal members, and they set out on their hunting expedition. Along the way, they come across a stone structure left by their ancestors, serving as a guidepost to help them navigate in the right direction. In that ancient era, people relied on such structures and celestial navigation, like studying the stars, to find their way. While on their journey, they encounter another tribe that has also come to the area for hunting. Both tribes meet, and they continue their journey together. As they proceed, they spot a wild pig in the distance. The tribal leader urges his son, Keda, to kill the wild pig they've encountered, but Keda hesitates as he doesn't want to harm animals. Frustrated by Keda's reluctance, the leader warns him that if he continues like this, he won't be able to lead the tribe after him, and someone else will take his place. As night falls and they reach a campsite, they decide to light a fire and gather around it. While sitting by the fire, they hear an animal approaching. The leader hushes the group, and suddenly, a hidden lion emerges, snatching Keda's friend and disappearing into the darkness. Keda is deeply frightened by this traumatic event. They pay their respects to the lost boy by placing stones in his memory before moving on. Throughout the day, they work tirelessly, and as night falls again, they seek shelter in a cave. The leader and Keda step out of the cave, and the leader teaches Keda to use the designs on their hands to navigate by matching them with the stars in the sky. This is a valuable lesson to help them find their way. While outside, they spot a group of wolves, with one wolf standing alone. The tribal leader and his son, Keda, observe the lone wolf, recognizing it as their leader. The leader becomes distraught, thinking that his son might not have survived the lion's attack. He sits there, calling out for Keda, but receives no response, and the night deepens. His tribespeople are also present, and they join in calling for Keda throughout the night, but it seems futile. They assume that Keda has passed away and, in mourning, place a memorial stone in his memory, a customary practice after someone's passing. However, the following morning, Keda awakens to the sensation of birds pecking at him. He regains consciousness and sits up, calling out for his tribe and his father, but there is no one around. They have all moved on. Keda attempts to descend the mountain but finds it too steep for a safe descent. In a stroke of unexpected fortune, it begins to rain. The ditch that Keda would have fallen into fills with water. Keda, who knows how to swim, seizes the opportunity and jumps into the water, swimming to safety on the other side. After reaching the shore while flowing in the water, Keda regains consciousness but realizes he's injured and his foot is hurting. He improvises a makeshift splint using nearby stones and pieces of wood to stabilize his foot. He attempts to walk and eventually makes his way back to the location where he fell from the mountain. There, he is disheartened to discover that his tribe had placed stones, believing him to be dead. Feeling a mix of sadness and frustration, he calls out to them, but his voice attracts a group of wolves. The wolves begin to approach him, and in his fear, Keda rushes to a nearby tree and climbs it to evade the wolves. Fearful of the wolves below, he spends the entire night perched in the tree. As morning arrives, Keda becomes thirsty and descends to fetch water. However, the wolves continue to pursue him. He climbs back up the tree, but one of the wolves manages to bite his foot. In self-defense, Keda uses a weapon he had with him to injure the wolf, causing it to fall to the ground. The other wolves remain below, creating a tense standoff as Keda remains in the safety of the tree. The wolves wait for Keda to come down from the tree, but when he doesn't, they eventually depart, leaving only the injured wolf behind. Keda initially believes the wolf to be dead, but it's still alive, in great pain. Seeing its suffering, Keda decides to end its life to spare it further agony and because he fears it might pose a threat to him if it recovers. However, as he approaches the injured wolf with the intention to kill it, he notices something in its eyes. There's an unexpected innocence and vulnerability in this typically dangerous creature. Keda hesitates, and they share a profound moment as they lock eyes. Keda's emotions are mixed, and instead of killing the wolf, he gently closes its mouth to prevent it from biting him. He decides to carry the injured wolf with him. They find shelter in a cave for the night, and when Keda wakes up the next morning, he discovers that the wolf is sitting calmly, not showing aggression. As the light enters the cave, Keda recognizes it as a familiar location where he and his tribe often gathered. Keda steps outside to gather herbs and makes a mixture to tend to his wound. Meanwhile, the wolf, thirsty and seemingly trusting Keda, releases itself from the restraint on its mouth. Initially, it growls as a sign of caution. Keda and the wolf form an unlikely friendship. When Keda offers the wolf water, it gratefully drinks and doesn't show any aggression. Keda applies the herb mixture he made for his wounds to the wolf's injury, and the wolf seems to enjoy the relief it provides. Their bond grows stronger, and they begin to trust each other. As hunger sets in, Keda goes outside the cave and hunts a wild rabbit. He shares the meat with the wolf, further cementing their friendship. The days pass, and they continue to rely on each other for companionship and survival. One day, Keda attempts to reintroduce the wolf to its pack. However, the wolf prefers to stay with Keda, showing a strong attachment to him. Eventually, Keda leaves the wolf behind and continues on his journey. However, he senses that the wolf is secretly following him, despite his attempts to scare it away. Keda tries throwing a piece of wood to deter the wolf, but the wolf simply plays with it. Unable to leave the loyal wolf behind, Keda allows it to accompany him as they move forward. As they continue their journey, they come across a white pig, and Alpha attempts to tackle it for a hunt. However, Keda becomes frightened, and they miss their opportunity to catch the pig. Consequently, they continue their journey without any food, sleeping hungry that night. The following morning, Alpha takes the initiative to teach Keda how to hunt, and they manage to secure something to eat. Their bond deepens as they rely on each other for survival. As days pass, Keda becomes more proficient in hunting with Alpha's guidance. He loses his fear and gains the skills needed to provide for himself. The winter season arrives, and the landscape is covered in snow. Despite the challenging conditions, Keda is no longer afraid, thanks to Alpha's teachings. One night, while Keda and Alpha are eating, another wolf arrives. It emits a threatening growl, causing Keda to arm himself with his bayonet. However, he soon realizes that the newcomer is Alpha's companion, here to reunite with Alpha. As Alpha starts to leave with its companion, it turns back and looks at Keda before departing. As Alpha leaves, it appears to express gratitude to Keda, and there is a sense in its eyes that it doesn't want to go. However, Keda understands the longing for family and urges Alpha to return to its own pack. The next day, Keda begins to feel the absence of his friend Alpha. He misses the companionship they shared and the valuable hunting skills Alpha taught him. Loneliness creeps in, and at night, he has a haunting dream where he sees his parents grieving the loss of their son. This dream stirs fear in Keda, and he wakes up determined not to let such sorrow befall his family. Keda resolves to continue his journey home, driven by the love and responsibility he feels for his parents. As he walks, he encounters a group of wolves in the distance. Missing Alpha, he runs towards them, hoping to find his friend. However, As he reaches them, he discovers it's not Alpha but a frozen lake. The ice gives way beneath him, and Keda falls into the freezing water, unable to swim. In his dire situation, Alpha comes to Keda's rescue, attempting to save him from the icy waters. Keda, realizing the urgency of the moment, retrieves his dagger and manages to break through the ice, pulling himself out of the freezing lake. Alpha manages to save Keda from the icy waters, and they sit together by the fire to warm up. They spend the night resting, and the next morning, Keda resumes his journey. While walking, he encounters a frozen man sitting on the path, a stark reminder of the harshness of the snowy environment. This sight disheartens Keda, and he begins to fear that he too may succumb to the cold. However, Alpha, his loyal companion, rests its head in Keda's lap, offering comfort and warmth, urging him not to lose hope. Their bond grows even stronger as they continue to rely on each other for survival. Keda finds some clothes in the house of the deceased man and takes them for protection against the cold. As they press onward, wild animals begin to follow them. Seeking refuge, they hide in a cave. However, Alpha's growling indicates that there is another dangerous creature in the cave, a black panther. The panther attacks, but Alpha bravely stands in its way, fighting to protect Keda. In the process, Alpha sustains severe injuries. Keda, armed with a bow and arrow, shoots the panther, ultimately saving them both. Keda feels guilty that Alpha was injured because of him. Keda tends to Alpha's wounds, expressing his gratitude and promising that they will always be together. They continue their journey despite the falling snow, with Alpha too injured to walk, so Keda carries the wolf in his lap. As they trek through the icy storm, they suffer from hunger, having not eaten for some time. They spend the night in the unforgiving cold. In a dream, Keda sees his parents, which strengthens his resolve to return home. Determined not to lose courage, Keda continues walking until he finally reaches his house. The people of the tribe, including his parents, are sitting there, looking sorrowful. When the tribal leader, presumably his father, spots Keda, he rushes to him, overwhelmed with joy. Keda, holding Alpha in his lap, reaches out to his father. He proudly declares that he has become the son his father wanted him to be. Keda, having successfully returned to his tribe, seeks validation from his father, who embraces him warmly and expresses his pride. Keda's mother is equally overjoyed and hugs him tightly. Later, both Keda and Alpha, who is revealed to be a female wolf, receive care and healing near the comforting warmth of the fire. Alpha gives birth to wolf pups, and the tribe's members lovingly nurture and raise them. In time, a deep and special bond forms between the wolves and the tribal community. Keda assumes the role of the tribe's leader, and as the years pass, the wolves age alongside their human counterparts. With this heartwarming conclusion, the movie comes to an end. Thanks for watching this recap. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and feel free to explore our other recaps.